my name's Rachel Love. I'm a PhD candidate at Monash, and my research is in using robots in education, specifically an adaptive dialogue strategy for teachable robots. Well, I think growing up, I'd always sort of been a practical person. And enjoyed problem solving. My pop liked to tell the anecdote that I once tried to fix his recliner chair with sellotape. The anecdote goes that it was successful. I'm not quite sure how accurate that is. But then throughout high school, I got interested in the sciences, and I kind of figured that out of those interests, medicine was the most appropriate career path for me. And it wasn't until my last year of high school that I found out about biomedical engineering. And it kind of blew my mind. It seemed to be this perfect combination of all of my passions just kind of wrapped up into one degree. So I switched into engineering, and I love the problem solving aspect to it. It's, my degree was medical theory, but with this practical problem solving twist, which I loved. And I think that's what I like about STEM in general, is that it's about finding solutions to the world's problems in creative and interesting ways. And that just means it's always going to be interesting. Well, my parents are both in the field of science. They're both in genetics. And so growing up, that was always in the discourse. That was what they went off and did when they went to work, and my maternal grandfather as well. And so I think I was lucky that nothing about my home life or my schooling ever kind of dissuaded the notion that a girl that's smart and capable could do sort of whatever she wanted. But I think the issue that I had was that I didn't see any women in STEM who I could look up to. Like, my uncle is an engineer, and so my conception of engineers was men in high vis and hard hats. That was what I thought it was. And so I thought, well, that's not for me. And sort of in the broader context, you're aware of historical women of significance. You hear about them, the few that are reported in school, but there were no modern women in STEM who were being talked about. So you don't see yourself occupying that role. And I think once I sort of took the plunge to go and do engineering, you find women like that. I really am on board with the notion that research is a collective enterprise of everyone doing their own little bits, because nobody these days is going to change the world by themselves. But through research, you contribute to this pool of knowledge. And even though it's rough at the time that it happens, there's research where you have positive outcomes and you do actually solve the problem that you set out to look at. But then there's also the research that doesn't go well. And I think both of those things are equally important for you to say, hey, this didn't work, let's not do this again, so that some other person down the line doesn't try and do the same thing. So I like the idea that we collectively are expanding the world's knowledge. In the immortal words of Nike, just do it. There may not be people who look like you, for whatever reason, may not identify like you, but if it's something that you're passionate about, do it. I don't know how prevalent the myth is, but what I'd like to debunk is this notion that you have to change anything about yourself in order to belong in a field in which you don't see many people like you. Your unique perspective and experiences and contributions are an asset to you. And, speaking on gender, we don't need you to be one of the guys, we need you to be you when you come into the field. So bring everything about yourself and just stick with it. If the field of STEM is to be responsible for driving the solutions to global problems going forward, then it's so important that we make them work the best we can for everybody. And I think circling back to, you know, what we were talking about before, and that seeing yourself in career paths is so important when we're so impressionable at a young age. I think there is a snowball effect to having more diversity in STEM, encouraging that diversity going forward. The more women there are, the more women we attract, and you want that equality. And I think, you know, taking steps now when there isn't that equality in order to build that up just has this great snowball effect of making it an attractive prospect to girls in school now, who can look up to you and be like, oh, I could be just like her. And I think that's just nice to think about.